A new month is here and your PS Plus library just got stacked. Here are 25 must-play games on PS5 right now you do not want to sleep on. Next up, Nine Souls might just be the sleeper hit of the year. This 2D action platformer from Red Candle Games blends Sekiro-style deflection mechanics with a hand-drawn aesthetic pulled straight from a graphic novel. You play as Yi, a warrior uncovering the secrets of an ancient alien civilization in a world that fuses Eastern mythology with biopunk science fiction. The combat demands precision and patience, with every parry feeling deeply satisfied when timed correctly. It carries an exceptional 84 on Metacritic and was nominated for multiple awards since its launch. This one is the kind of game that surprises you with how polished and well-crafted it is from beginning to end. EA Sports FC 26 is the soccer entry this month, and if you follow football at all, this is a no-brainer claim. The game introduces an overhauled, authentic gameplay mode and career that makes managing a club feel more realistic than ever, while the competitive mode is tuned for tighter online play. The sheer breadth of licensed leagues, teams, and real-world players remains one of the strongest in the genre. With the FIFA World Cup coming up, the timing of this hitting PS Plus could not be better. It sits at a 77 on Metacritic and is a solid all-rounder, whether you play solo or online. Plus, members also get a bonus Icons pack exclusive to the subscription. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 continues to be one of the most visually jaw-dropping games on PS5. Insomniac Games push the hardware hard with near-instant fast travel, dual-character swinging mechanics between Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and some of the most fluid open-world traversal in any superhero title to date. The story brings in Venom in a way that genuinely surprises, and the combat system layers symbiote abilities with Miles' bioelectric powers for a constantly shifting combat experience. It received widespread critical praise and remains one of the definitive reasons to own a PS5. If you have not played it yet through the extra catalog, May is a great time to start. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered arrived on PS Plus Extra in April and remains available this month as part of the catalog. This is the definitive way to experience Aloy's original journey, rebuilt for PS5 with substantially upgraded character models, facial animations, and lighting systems. The open world is still stunning, even years after the original release, and the story holds up exceptionally well for new players. The Frozen Wilds expansion is included, adding hours of content in a visually distinct icy region. For anyone who skipped the remaster when it launched or missed it last month on Plus, this is well worth downloading before it potentially rotates out. The Crew Motorfest is the open-world racing game that fills a very specific gap in the PS5 library. Set across the Hawaiian archipelago, the game features hundreds of licensed vehicles across a festival structure of themed playlists and challenges. It is visually lush, with a soundtrack and atmosphere that leans into the celebration of call culture from multiple angles, including off-road, street racing, and boat events. Ubisoft built the map with exploration in mind, and there is a satisfying loop to unlocking new events across the islands. It is not as mechanically deep as Gran Turismo 7, but for a casual racing experience with great scenery, it more than delivers. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut remains one of the best open-world action games on PS5, and the Director's Cut adds the Iki Island expansion on top of an already complete package. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai facing the brutal Mongol invasion of Tsushima, and the game gives you remarkable freedom in how you approach combat and stealth. The world itself is painterly and breathtaking, built entirely around a Japanese aesthetic that feels consistently intentional in every corner. The combat system rewards patience and adaptability, and the Legends multiplayer mode offers co-op gameplay that extends the experience considerably. It carries an 87 Metacritic score and stands among the PS5 generation's most memorable exclusives. Astro Bot is PlayStation's celebration of its own history, and it might just be the purest joy you will experience on PS5. Team Asobi built an immaculate platformer that uses the DualSense controller in ways that make you feel like you are actually interacting with the world through your hands. Every level is creative, every cameo is a love letter, and the difficulty curve is perfectly calibrated for broad audiences without ever feeling shallow. It won multiple Game of the Year awards for 2024, and the praise is entirely deserved. Even if you are not a longtime PlayStation fan, the gameplay alone makes it one of the most inventive platformers released in years. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a massive, ambitious second chapter in Square Enix's reimagining of the classic JRPG. The game expands the world far beyond Midgar into a vast open world split across multiple distinct regions, each with its own visual identity and gameplay hooks. Cloud and the rest of Avalanche travel through landscapes ranging from lush jungles to arid deserts, and the game packs in an enormous amount of side content, minigames, and lore without ever losing focus on its core narrative. The combat system builds beautifully on Remake, and the character switching mechanics feel natural and well integrated. For fans of JRPGs, this is essential. Stellar Blade is one of the PS5's most visually distinctive exclusives, an action RPG from Shift Up that puts you in control of Eve, a warrior from an orbital colony descending to a ruined Earth. The combat is elegant and demanding, built around a system of parries, dodges, and beta skill chains that require genuine engagement to master. The world design draws from dark sci-fi aesthetics, and the game does not shy away from its influences, while still carving out its own identity. Beyond the surface, there is a surprisingly well-structured narrative with multiple endings. It received strong reviews and has a dedicated fanbase that continues to grow as more players discover it through PS Plus. Lies of P is the Souls-like that proved the genre could be successfully transplanted into non-From Software hands with full confidence. Set in a twisted, Belle Epoque-inspired city called Krat, you play as P, a puppet modeled after Pinocchio, navigating a world overrun by rogue machines and grotesque creatures. The game introduces a lie system that subtly shapes the narrative and a weapon assembly mechanic that gives you genuine build variety. Enemy design is inventive and boss encounters are challenging without feeling unfair. It sits at a strong 80 on Metacritic, and for anyone who has been burned out on Souls-likes, this one rekindles that spark. Demon's Souls is the PS5 remake that showed exactly what the new hardware could do at launch. Bluepoint Games rebuilt From Software's foundational action RPG from the ground up, with a level of visual fidelity that makes it feel genuinely modern, while preserving every brutal, methodical detail of the original design. The interconnected world of Boletaria is as atmospheric and foreboding as ever, and the combat still demands full attention with every engagement. For anyone who wants to understand where the Souls-like genre began, this is the most accessible and beautiful entry point available. It belongs in every PS5 library. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a technical showcase wrapped in a brilliant, imaginative platformer. Insomniac Games used the PS5's SSD to build a dimension-hopping experience where you can jump between entirely different worlds in real time with no load screens. Rivet, the alternate dimension version of Ratchet, is one of the most charming new PlayStation characters in years, and the writing strikes a tone that works for adults and kids equally. The weapon variety is wild, and each one feels satisfying and distinct. It is bright, fast, and joyful, and remains one of the cleanest demonstrations of what the PS5 can actually do at a technical level. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach is Hideo Kojima's follow-up to one of the most divisive games of the previous generation, and it doubles down on everything that made the original interesting while smoothing off the rougher edges. Sam Porter Bridges returns in a globe-spanning delivery narrative that is simultaneously intimate and enormously strange, with Kojima's signature blend of celebrity casting, metaphysical storytelling, and mechanical systems that reward patience and observation. The world is larger and more visually varied than the first game, and the social strand system for building infrastructure with other players remains genuinely unique in gaming. It is one of the year's most talked about releases. Elden Ring needs little introduction. From Software's open-world action RPG is one of the most acclaimed games of this generation, built on the studio's signature design philosophy, but opened up into a vast, handcrafted landscape called the Lands Between. Every area is dense with secrets, lore, and interconnected pathways that reward curiosity and punish carelessness. The boss roster is legendary, and the build variety allows for genuinely different playstyles across multiple runs. If it is available through the PS Plus catalog and you have not yet played it, that is simply an opportunity you cannot afford to miss. Baldur's Gate 3 is the RPG benchmark that every other game in the genre now has to measure itself against. Larian Studios built a sprawling, reactive world set in the Forgotten Realms, with a level of narrative branching and player agency that feels nearly infinite. Every major decision carries weight, every companion has a full arc, and the tactical turn-based combat rewards creative thinking over brute force. Co-op support for up to 4 players adds a whole new dimension to an already enormous game. It took multiple Game of the Year awards in 2023 and continues to be played and discussed at a level most games never reach. Helldivers 2 was the multiplayer phenomenon of 2024, and it remains one of the most enjoyable co-op experiences on PS5. Arrowhead Game Studios built a third-person shooter around the concept of managed democracy, where 4 players drop onto hostile planets as Helldivers, defending Super-Earth against alien threats. The tone is satirical and hilarious, the gunplay is messy and impactful in the best way, and the stratagem system for calling in equipment gives every mission a planning layer that prevents gameplay from ever feeling repetitive. Community-wide galactic war events and ongoing updates have kept the game fresh well beyond its launch window. Black Myth Wukong arrived as one of the most visually stunning action games of 2024 and delivered on its ambitious promise. Game Science built a Souls-like adjacent action RPG around the Chinese classic Journey to the West, casting you as the Destined One retracing the journey of Sun Wukong through richly realized environments pulled from Chinese mythology. The transformation system lets you adopt the abilities of defeated bosses, giving combat a constantly evolving feel. Technically, it is a marvel on PS5, with some of the finest environmental detail and character animation in any game to date. It proved beyond doubt that Chinese game development had arrived at the global stage. Silent Hill 2 is the remake that fans had been waiting years to see done right, and Bloober Team delivered. The psychological horror classic returns with a full visual and gameplay overhaul built from scratch in Unreal Engine 5, preserving the oppressive atmosphere and surrealist monster design while modernizing the over-the-shoulder gameplay. James Sunderland's journey into the fog-covered town remains one of gaming's most haunting narratives, and the remake gives it the visual fidelity it always deserved. Creature design, lighting, and audio work to create a sense of dread that never lets up. For horror fans, this is essential playing. Alan Wake 2 is Remedy Entertainment's masterpiece, a genre-defying horror thriller that blurs the line between psychological drama and action game. Playing as both Alan Wake inside the dark place and FBI agent Saga Anderson in the real world, the game weaves 2 narratives together across an experience that is part Twin Peaks mystery, part survival horror, and entirely unlike anything else on PS5. The live action sequences, the manuscript board mechanic, and the mind place and plactivation system make it feel genuinely experimental without sacrificing accessibility. Visually, it is among the very best on the platform. It is a game that deserves to be experienced without too much prior knowledge. Monster Hunter Wilds is Capcom's biggest and most ambitious entry in the long-running series, and it arrived on PS5 as a technical tour de force. The game introduces seamlessly connected biomes that shift dynamically with weather systems, directly affecting monster behavior and hunting strategies. The weapon variety remains staggering, with 14 distinct weapon types, each with deep mechanical systems to master. Online co-op for 4 players keeps the experience social, and the post-launch content cadence has been generous. For veteran hunters and newcomers alike, Wilds represents the series at its absolute peak in terms of scale, polish, and replayability. Metaphor ReFantazio is Atlas at its most ambitious, an original JRPG from the team behind Persona 5 that builds an entirely new fantasy world with the same character-driven depth and stylish presentation the studio is known for. You play as a young man on a journey to save a fantasy kingdom, building bonds with companions while navigating a turn-based combat system that blends Persona-style social links with a more overtly political and philosophical narrative. The visual design is stunning, with a hand-illustrated aesthetic that makes every menu and cutscene feel like art. It was one of the most acclaimed JRPGs of 2024, and a must-play for anyone in the genre. Rounding out the list, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is one of the most entertainingly unhinged games in the series. Following Goro Majima as a pirate battling across Hawaii, the game leans fully into its absurd premise, with ship combat, island exploration, and the signature Yakuza blend of serious storytelling and completely ridiculous side content. 2 distinct combat styles for Majima keep the ground fighting fresh, and the pirate ship battles add a genuinely enjoyable strategic layer. The humor is sharp, the set pieces are memorable, and the production value is high. It is the perfect closer to a list that spans everything PlayStation Plus has to offer on PS5 this May.